Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and folks, we are broadcasting, as we usually are, from inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta. And if you're looking for a better banking experience for your business, if you've been big banked way too many times, and you know what I mean by that, if you're at one of those mega banks that's a little bit impersonal, shall we say, give Renaissance Bank a try. I've used them myself. I've worked with them in several situations with clients, just finished one here recently, and here's what I found. They deliver personal service, yet they're big enough to handle pretty much any need you can throw at them. So if that's what you're looking for in your bank, go to renaissancebank.com and find one of their local offices and give them a call. And I think you'll be glad you did. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. Now I want to welcome an old friend, the host of ProfitSense, the Profitability Coach. How many other titles do you have? Bill McDermott is with us.
Yeah, chief cook and bottle washer and whatever else needs to do, taking out the trash. So.
Whatever else your bride tells you, right? So,
that's exactly right. It's great to be with you, John. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for coming on to talk a little bit about you and your business. For those that don't know you, let's describe how you are serving folks out there.
Yeah. So my clients call me the Profitability Coach. Every business owner wants to maximize cash flow and profitability, but often they don't really understand what levers to pull to achieve that. So I come along with a plan to identify the hurdles getting in the way and deliver them profitability and cash flow that they never thought possible. And it's a lot of fun. But I have also, had some of those clients take me in a new direction, which I'm excited to talk with you about today.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to get to today. But just a couple more questions about your traditional business. So you came out of the banking world, and you started your current practice when?
So this April will be 14 years.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
So what happened is laid off in the Great Recession, had spent 32 years in the banking industry. And really what I saw is that business owners really struggle with financial management. They don't teach it in school. Most business owners didn't take an accounting class as an undergraduate, and there's no on-the-job training for that business owner. So the Profitability Coach was launched with the idea in mind, can I help business owners become better financial managers? Can I take some of that financial confusion that they see in their financial statements or in their business and create financial clarity and empower those business owners to make decisions and make those decisions which drive the profitability forward? And so been doing that 14 years, having a blast, and I've probably worked with 200 or 300 business owners over that time.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. And you, there's a whole story there that you could tell about your how you've built your practice, and maybe we can talk about that another day. But it's a great story.
Well,
and congratulations on your success.
Yeah, thank you for that. The quick version of that is banking had changed over the last 20 years. I think. Launching the Profitability Coach might have been a little bit divine. When I was laid off, I came home and told my wife, and she cried and I cried. And, what do? You pray and you say, okay, you've closed a door. Could you open a window? And by the way, for Bill here, could you put a little neon around it?
That's right. Make sure I can find it, right?
Yeah. And so really what happened is I think I was too stubborn to quit, and the man upstairs knew that he had a plan for me, and so I'm working that plan.
Congratulations on that, Bill. So your clients, and this is the way it always happens, right? I mean, for those of us in professional services, our clients ask us to do things that maybe are not on our website, not in our marketing material, but they see something in us that we're not thinking about, and they trust us, right? And in your case, you had been talking to your clients about their profitability and coaching them on their profitability and their financing and all the bells and whistles, if you will, around a balance sheet and an income statement. But they pulled you in a new direction. So what was that new direction?
Yeah. So I was coaching a business, very successful business. They're a services firm, and they'd been in business 30 years. And they were tired. They were baby boomers approaching retirement. And so they asked me, said, Bill, you've been coaching us for a while. Can you help us exit our business? We not only want to transition management, but we want to transition ownership too. So we went on a plan to determine really how do they exit. And of course, real estate's all about location, but business is all about management. Mm-hmm. They had identified 4 individuals that had been with the business over 15 years. And so we crafted a product and a process that ultimately delivered a sale about 6 months later. And that sale gave the owners financial security in their retirement. That transaction also gave 4 employees ownership in the business with a plan to take the business forward. So business exit planning is something that I'm finding my clients are taking me in that direction. And so I wouldn't call it a pivot necessarily. I would just call it a natural extension. If you've developed a trust relationship with a business owner, helping them with their financial management, it's then the next logical progression. Statistics show, John, that baby boomers make up about 2.3 million businesses in the United States. Mm-hmm. But that study also shows that 58% have literally done no planning for an exit, and a much larger percentage haven't even contemplated doing any kind of planning. So there's a real void in the marketplace to provide expertise to these business owners that are so busy working in their business. They're not really taking the time to work on their business.
Right. I want to dig more into that in a second, but I want to go back to something you said in that answer, talking about what your client really saw in you, because what you talked about was trust. That's a big lesson and a reminder, really, for most of us professional services providers. We know that intuitively trust is a big deal. But for that client to look at you and say, I don't know if this is on your resume or not, but trust is so important to me that I want you to do this for us. I want you to, Bill, to step up and help us with something that's really the most important thing we could do in our business, and that's exit and pass it on to the next generation of management. So you had obviously built up great trust for that client to get to that point with you.
Yeah. So I'm a lifelong learner. Mm-hmm. There's a great book out there. I can't recall the author, but it's titled Clients for Life. Mm-hmm. How do you go from an expert for hire to a client advisor? And by client advisor, I have one client that I've worked with for 13 years that's taken me many different directions. What started out as coaching has gone into, Bill, could you find some resources to help me know if I'm paying competitive salaries for my management team? And by the way, I'm thinking about doing some supplemental bonus planning or phantom stock ownership for some of my key management. Mm-hmm. Can you do a little research on that? And by the way, I'm going into a new industry. Would you be willing to do a white paper on this industry and what the potential is? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think trust is something that takes a long time to develop. You can actually lose that trust literally overnight, mm-hmm. But it is something that over time, I think people appreciate the benefits of the relationship both ways, and that trust is something that's really special. And let's face it, business owners, it's lonely at the top. If you're the CEO of a business, you can talk up, but you may not hear an answer, and you can't talk down because that's bad for morale. So I've just found that it's really helpful to try to think about that client and what they're thinking and what they're feeling and what their needs are, and then find a need and meet it. Yeah.
Great work. Bill McDermott is with us, folks. He's the profitability coach. He's also the host of ProfitSense, which is a show right here that you can hear right here on Business RadioX. ProfitSenseRadio.com is one of the URLs that'll help you find that show. And Bill interviews terrific business leaders in and around the Atlanta area and beyond. Bill, let's talk about specifically what you mean when you talk about exit planning. Now, you mentioned this example of this client that really kind of pulled you into this work. And I think there's some clues to in the answer to that question in what you just said, but let's talk specifics. So what is exit planning for you?
Yeah. So we take a little bit of a unique approach. Part of that unique approach is really, it is important to understand the value of the business, but in our planning, one of the unique things is we introduce a concept called financial freedom. And financial freedom is defined as once you have set aside a certain amount of assets that you can invest that create an income for you in your retirement days, you've in effect achieved financial freedom. And so part of that is really just understanding what part of that business owner's business is required for financial freedom. And so first we start out with a value. We don't value businesses. That's really left for the experts, but we can create an annuity based on a certain level of income for a certain number of years. Specifically, our approach is we want to be sure that that business value is maximized. And so the first place that we're looking for is, does this company have a competent management team? And do they have agreements with what I call stay pay? In other words, the worst thing that could happen is a buyer buys a business and the management team walks out with the owner, and all of a sudden they don't have anybody running the company. And so making sure that you have compensation agreements with those key management members to tie them is really, really important. Secondly, reliable financial statements. I know what my house is worth, but I want to be sure that what I think it's worth and what someone willing to buy it, what their opinion is of its worth. And so having reliable financial statements that are verified, either reviewed or audited by a third party is really, really critical for the success. And so we make sure that prior to an exit, they have several years of either audited or reviewed financials, so they have an independent opinion. Probably the key differentiator is we not only have a deliverable of how the business works, how they maintain and grow margins, but we also create a business growth plan. And within that business growth plan, we're looking at projections of income, projections of revenue, and then we do a discounted cash flow analysis within that and show when the growth plan is implemented, this is the potential of what the value could be to the buyer. And then the last thing that's part of planning is there are 3 T's that the business owner needs to think about. First is taxes. An asset sale has a different tax treatment than a stock sale. Timing, is the owner ready to exit? And then the other thing is terms. Is it all cash? Is it all stock of another entity? Is it a combination? And so all of those things are really part of a successful exit. So exit planning is really helping that business owner transition from ownership and management to monetizing the investment that they've made and trying to make the business as bulletproof as it possibly can be.
When you're looking ahead with a business owner and you're looking at that discounted cash flow, those numbers and those values, what you're really, it sounds like you're getting at is giving a business owner a roadmap in terms of how they can improve the value of their business over time, because every business owner's got an idea of what the baby's worth and then there's what the baby's really worth. Right. And so closing that gap it sounds like that's particularly where you come in for business owners.
Absolutely. Let's pretend for a moment that I'm going to use selling a house and how that maybe ties into a business. So let's pretend today I decide to sell my house, but I haven't updated my bathrooms. I haven't updated the kitchen. Probably need to put a fresh coat of paint. So I can't decide today that I'm going to sell my house. Mm-hmm. Also, I haven't really got someone to tell me what my house is worth, either an appraiser or a real estate broker that's pulling comps. And so to get my house ready for sale, I probably do need to update it, put a fresh coat of paint, put my best foot forward, and also know what it's worth. And so, yeah, we're handing the buyer really a playbook. This is how the business is run. This is how it's managed. This is how we grow and maintain profit margins. This is our business growth plan. Mm-hmm. If implemented, this is what we feel like will drive the value based on a conservative set of assumptions. And then finally, selling a business takes a village, John. And so you're usually pulling in a CPA, mm-hmm. an attorney. Usually there's a wealth manager involved. Sometimes there's a banker involved, and obviously an investment banker or business broker, because I don't handle the broker part of it. I just really advise the business owner. But yeah, you're handing them a playbook, and you're also having gone through the math of, okay, if I'm selling it and it's an asset sale, then I have to figure out I'm responsible for paying off the debt of the company. Mm-hmm. And I'm also responsible for paying whatever the tax consequences are. And the financial freedom that I'm describing is not the gross amount of the sale, but the net. Mm. And so is the net sufficient? Because I have to take taxes and debt in an asset sale. If it's a stock sale, again, different tax treatment. And the buyer is assuming the liabilities as well as the assets. So really, you're just assigning a value of the stock.
Right. Bill McDermott is with us, folks. He's the profitability coach, and he's also the host of ProfitSense here on Business RadioX, and he works with business owners on exit planning and maximizing the value of their business and successfully transitioning out of that business. Bill, what's the big gap that you typically see? We're talking about this gap between what a business owner thinks their business is worth and what it really is worth. What's the typical source of that gap? Maybe the number one or two reasons.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would say first, strategic buyers that are out there in the market looking for businesses to buy, believe it or not, they have a team of, quote, paid assassins that once they've identified an acquisition target, they're going in and trying to find holes in that business and actually negotiating to get the price down. So, for example, I happen to know one individual well who was an HR director of his corporation, and the personnel policies, maybe they weren't compliant with all the EEOC guidelines. Maybe they didn't do performance reviews, or they didn't really have employee development plans. So his goal was to get the price down just based on human resources. But probably the number one item I would say where a business is not protecting themselves is by having financial information that's either reviewed or audited by an independent third party, usually a CPA. So if you don't have those reliable financial statements as a buyer, you're accepting the seller's opinion of those financials, how they recognize revenue, what's expensed and what's not, what's the actual profitability. Is it really what the financials say it is? Because nobody's digging into the accounting treatment of those assets and liabilities. And so reliable financial statements is a big one.
Yeah.
Probably secondly, and close to second, is there are a lot of business owners that have had their head down running their business, but they haven't really built a management team, an experienced head of sales, an experienced head of operations, and head of finance, so that they have a team that can run the business without them. So often I ask a question to the business owner, if you take a month off and you travel, Europe or wherever you want to travel to, can your business run without you? And if the answer is no, a lot of times you have to tell that business owner, well, look, the actual value in your business is the value of the business minus you. And if you're 100% of the business, then the problem is that business might not be worth much, if anything. So probably reliable financial statements, I'd say number one. And then number two, having a management team in place.
And again, as you mentioned before, all that takes time to remediate. When you've got issues with the financial statements, that takes time to take care of. And of course, not just to get those financial statements, but to have, as you said, 2 or 3 years of good ones. And then you've got it takes time to get that management team in place. So this is something that takes some well thought out planning, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, I've got one client that I've worked with for about 13 years, and within the last 3 years, he has successfully filled places in his head of sales, his head of operations, and his head of finance, and now is beginning the transition process. Before that, the business was really run by him and his chief operating officer. But the business has gotten big to the point where, it's hard for just the two of them to run it by themselves. So now with those people in place, he's actually transitioning a lot of the management of those key people or key positions to the people in those seats.
Right.
And that not only manages his value, also I think this will be 2022 will be year 3 of audited financials for this firm. And so he's well on his way to putting together his management team and making sure that his financials have an independent opinion.
Right. That's terrific. So what is, I know there's no typical business. I get that. But when you're talking about the discounts a buyer is going to place on a business because they see holes in the financial statements, or they see in a management team which is not quite complete, let's say. What does that cost a business? I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, if you've got a business that's would ordinarily have a $20 million valuation, I mean, what's the haircut?
I'm sure there's probably maybe a rule or a standard. I'm not aware of it, but I think it could be significant. I'll make the same analogy to a house. If you're buying a house as is, very likely you might have to take a 15 to 20% haircut on that sale because you've got a lot of work to do. I wonder if that same 15, 20% might be true for not having audited financials, having a management team in place, maybe processes of the business aren't properly documented. And so, in a $20 million business, I'm guessing, John, but $2 to $4 million, maybe?
Yeah. So, I was going to say 20 million, 20% on a $20 million business is $4 million. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
So what you work with is a big, there's a lot at stake on how you work with a business owner. So, which is fantastic. So let's talk. You mentioned one success story, which is that client that really pulled you into this work, if you will. Any others you'd like to share that you're working on or have worked on?
Yeah. So, I seem to find myself playing in a lot of not only manufacturing firms but also service businesses. I've got an architectural practice that we're in the process of transitioning majority ownership from the founder of the company to his partnership team. That's requiring us to do it over time. We have to get a valuation each year to determine the stock value, but we're well on our way of starting with that. I've also got another services firm that works in the utilities industry. We've been doing planning for about a year, and he actually is about to talk to two key employees about buying his business, and then probably a third that comes to mind is a manufacturing firm that has just had phenomenal growth in the last 3 to 5 years, and is getting ready to make another leap, and has recently put together their management team and has the audited financials. So those are three that come to mind. It's been really I just started this in January, so it's amazing.
January of last year, so January 2022. So,
yeah, okay. So this is our first full year. Part of the motivation was roughly baby boomers have about 2 million businesses that they hold, which employ, I think, about 25 million people. So it's roughly a family of 400 million people in the U.S. Statistics say that 58% have literally done no planning, and even a larger percent have not contemplated planning. So there's a real need in the marketplace to help these business owners. And so the natural progression of my practice is those same businesses that I've helped build up cash flow and profitability, I can also play a role for them. So those are some of the things that I've done with the existing clients that I've worked with, but also, there's a real need in the marketplace out there to help these baby boomer business owners monetize the value in their business and secure the employment of the employees of those firms.
Bill McDermott, folks, the Profitability Coach, host of ProfitSense. Bill, this has been fantastic. I can't imagine there aren't some folks that want to know more as they think about exiting their own business. So let's give them directions on how they can get in touch.
Yeah, the profitabilitycoach.net. And if you go to our website, you will see a free PDF that I give away, how to jumpstart your exit planning. Also, my email is bill@theprofitabilitycoach.net. And phone number, if you want to text or call me, is 770-597-3136. John, it's been an absolute delight, and a special thank you for hosting ProfitSense for me. And let me just say to any listeners out there, I have thoroughly enjoyed being a host. You may be thinking about becoming a show host yourself, and I just want to encourage you to call John Ray with North Fulton Business Radio X and talk to him about hosting a show.
Wow. Well, thank you. I appreciate your generous comments, Bill. It's a pleasure to work with you. You do great work. And again, folks, I would encourage you to check out ProfitSense, ProfitSenseRadio.com to find the show archive, and on all the major podcast apps. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. Bill, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, John. Thank you so much.
Hey, folks, just a quick reminder, if you've got some work to do in your business that may go hand in hand with some things that Bill is recommending, it's getting you out of the back office and working on administrative tasks, or maybe you're doing your own books and you've got a big pile of receipts that's a mess. Here's what you need to do. Go go to officeangels.us, or better yet, just give Essie Escobedo, the chief executive angel there, a call, 770-442-9246. What you will find is that Office Angels has a whole team of angels that, based on their talents and their experience, they are selected to fly in, get the job done, and fly out. And they do that on an ongoing or as needed basis. Whole team of great people. So if that's a problem that you need to start working on in your business as you think ahead toward financial freedom, give Essie a call, 770-442-9246, and let her know that we sent you. And folks, North Fulton Business Radio is the search term for the show on all the major podcast apps. You can find our show archive at northfultonbusinessradio.com. We're up to show numbers. I think this is show number 604, and we've gotten here because of your support. You've shared the show when you've heard something that you thought maybe a colleague or a friend ought to hear, and that's what we would ask you to continue to do. We're trying to shine the light on great business leaders like Bill and the other close to 900 guests we've had on this show over the years. So if you could help us help them as we serve to be the voice of business in the North Fulton area, we would greatly appreciate it. So for my guest, Bill McDermott, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.